I've got a couple of terrific guests. We are going to be discussing a video that's been circulating on social media. It's gained local and national attention. It shows the arrest of 24-year-old Lakean Woods on Friday afternoon, and in it, officers can be seen striking Woods and at one point slamming him face down, handcuffed into the ground. Joining us today are Kim Varner. He's a retired JSO detective and a familiar face around at least our TV station, and Lafonda Middleton, an attorney with the Middleton Law Firm, both to give us a little insight into this conversation and the investigation that's underway. If you would like to join the conversation, you are certainly welcome. You can call us at 549-2937. Good morning, Kim. I'm going
Morning
to
there.
start with the release yesterday of the mugshot of Lakean Woods. Tell me what your reaction was when you saw that.
Well, and I'm speaking based on 26 years of experience. There's no reason for someone to look like that after being arrested unless they physically resisted violently. And I just didn't witness any of that from many of the videos I've seen. I didn't see him resisting in that type way. So,
And when you say that type way, what kind of resistance do you think might meet, an end that results in significant injuries like that?
well, every video I've seen, even the ones that the sheriff's office has released from the body cam videos, I don't see him resisting. I see him. They're fighting to put his hands behind his back. That's the only resistance that I see. I don't see any strong uh, trying to fight back. In other words, in police work and police officers get it. Um, there's a difference in resisting and resisting violently. Somebody trying to keep their hands from putting them behind their back, and there are different strikes that you use to in order to affect that method of getting their hands behind their back. But there's no reason for this guy's face to look like that. That his face couldn't have come from him falling on his face after being tased, like they're saying. I just find it hard to believe. I'm a taser instructor. I've had yet to see anybody across this country fall on their face and it end up looking like that. So I think it came from when they slammed his face into the ground. And that makes much more sense that his face looked like that from slamming into the ground than falling from being tased.
LaFonda Middleton, tell us, what are you hearing about this video? I'm speaking specifically about the video that initially was circulating on social media, cell phone video that was taken of the incident, kind of out as it was happening, not from the beginning, but as it was happening, and what we saw thereon.
What is it that I heard about it?
What are you hearing? I guess people speak about, or concerns that you're hearing.
I'm hearing the community outraged by it. We did receive the cell phone video before the sheriff released the body cam footage, and it did show him being slammed to the ground. It did show that there were several officers around him as they were attempting to arrest him. There does not appear to be justification for the way his face looked after the arrest. Both of his eyes are swollen shut. He did run, and he was tased, and he was eventually handcuffed. I do not see from the videos a justification for his face to look the way that it did after the arrest. What I am hearing from the community is a lot of outrage. Of course, we know that in Duval County and in society in general, we have a huge distrust of the police in the Black community, and seeing something like this does not help. It just adds fuel to the fire, and so that's what I'm hearing from the community.
I gotcha. So Sheriff T.K. Waters took this issue on pretty much straight on yesterday. He held a press conference in the middle of all of the local newscasts at 5:30, addressed the concerns that he was hearing, showed a portion of the police body cam, which is unusual. Typically, they don't release that for a period of time until an investigation is done, at least internally. Kim, what's your takeaway on how the sheriff handled it? He said his goal was to be transparent.
Well, transparency is one thing, and I appreciate him wanting to be transparent about things. But to me, the video that they showed, that the sheriff's office produced, it doesn't show him slamming his head into the ground. So it's not. I don't call it transparency. He's not showing everything. From what he showed, I could almost agree with what he's saying. I mean, the guy did run, and I'm not saying this guy's a nice guy. I don't even know the kid, but I'm saying that it's no justification for him to look the way he looked after being arrested. The video that the sheriff showed from the body cams, if I looked at just those videos, I would say, well, the officers were in compliance. But he left that important part out where he slammed his head into the ground, and that's where I think the injuries possibly could have come from. And I want to be clear, I'm still a police officer at heart. I have, but I just believe in, right is right, and if we don't get a grip on this thing, the community is going to turn up, and it's going to be bad for the good officers that are out there, so.
We've got a call. Mark on the west side, I think, wants to give us a perspective. Good morning, Mark. How's it going?
Good morning. So far, so good.
Terrific.
I don't exactly understand what you guys want. This guy was a scumbag. He was a drug dealer. And to my way of thinking, a drug dealer, a known drug dealer who runs away from police, you can beat him as much as you want. I know that's not politically correct, but it's pretty obvious that he resisted arrest by running. And then he ran, and then you see the guy tase him, and you see him fall right onto the concrete, leaves away. That's what I see him doing. And then the sheriff gets up front and gives a very credible, a very reasoned display of the video. And then he tells us, and he doesn't go into this too much, but he tells us the cell phone video that was taken by some civilian had been altered in somehow. Now, I hope they try to punish that guy to the full extent of the law, but I don't even understand why we're talking about this.
Okay. Mark, thanks a lot. Appreciate your feedback. Lafonda, what do you think about the perspective that, people who are perhaps known to, in this case, the gang unit as a possible drug dealer or gang member and who flee from police, that's what they could expect to receive is to get beat by police or to, at least be handled roughly?
No, that is not what they should expect to receive, to be abused by the police. When someone is guilty of committing a crime or not, and when the police suspect someone of committing a crime, they have every right to be taken intact without the abuse. On my way here, I was talking to my 12-year-old, and we were talking about the incident, and he said, well, Mom, what do you think? Because, the guy ran away. And I said, I don't know. I need more information. What do you think? He said, I think he shouldn't have run. I think he was wrong for running, but I don't think the officers had to hit him the way that they did. And I don't think that his face should have looked the way that it looked. That's from a 12-year-old. And in a civil society, we would have those officers to arrest him in a civil manner without him being abused the way that he was. The question really was TK Waters transparent yesterday? He showed a portion of the videos, just like the cell phone footage was a portion of what happened. It wasn't the full story. He got up and he said he wanted to tell us the full story. He did not tell us the full story. He did not show all the body cam footage of all of the police officers, and he did not show us from start to finish. The other question is, did they have a right to stop them in the first place? Did they have enough to pull them over? I think if you talk to any attorney that does criminal defense work, they will tell you that these officers pulling them over for a seatbelt violation is a pretextual stop. And that's what we call it in the law. It's a pretextual stop. They had no reason to pull them over and take them out of the vehicle and confront them in the first place. And if they don't, we're not here.
So there's obviously information that still has to come out and additional reports, response to resistance reports. We haven't seen them yet. But the initial police report, although the sheriff is saying he was tased and fell on his face, and clearly the video does show that, the officer's own account of the incident, they acknowledge at least 17 strikes to his um, upper body and face. In some cases, one of the officers, punched him several times, acknowledged that. One officer said that he accidentally, some of his knee strikes struck him in the face or the eye area. So, it's not in question that they did handle him, that he was, in some cases punched or not kicked, but punched, or kneed. So, what do you think about Kim, that kind of handling? I mean, at some point, officers are allowed to subdue someone who's not complying. There is, pretty strong rules on resistance, and officers allowing to overcome resistance with more force.
Well, I think that and I agree with what TK says. Sometimes violence isn't pretty, you know, and sometimes you have to be as violent as that person as you're trying to take into custody. So I mean, I'm not knocking officers for using force if they had to use it, but when you're using force when it's not necessary, when it's not called for, that's brutality. That's not in the force matrix. When I went through the academy, we were always taught not to strike a person above the neck. So that's with your nightstick, with your hand, or anything. But when you're in a fight for your, you wearing a gun and you're in a fight for your life out there, you got to do what you got to do. And I'm all for officers doing that. I've had to do that twice in my 26 years where I had to actually fight somebody, and the rules went out the book. So I mean, went out the window, So, but there are times when that's called for. I just didn't see that in this video. Is what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
And in response to what Mark was saying, the caller, if you let this continue to go on, you're going to see some of the things that's happening in different cities throughout this country where people are just walking up to police cars and shooting them. You're going to see that kind of thing start happening here because the community's not going to continue to let this happen.
I thought it was interesting that TK Waters raised that issue himself, saying that was one of the reasons that he wanted to release this video and kind of take this issue head on, because he sensed unrest and really, I think he mentioned the word riot, that kind of, video, the concern about something that is raising that much anxiety in the community could have results of some sort of intense social disruption. What do you think about that, Lafonda? What do you think about that being a real concern over this particular video?
I think it is a real concern. I think that TK's address of it on yesterday, I think may have fanned the flame a little bit, because he was asked if the officers were still at work. He said yes, as they should be. But he also said that they were still investigating. So you have a young man who is being arrested, who clearly is being struck several times, who is being slammed to the ground. And then you have your officers, and the message that the community may have received from the sheriff's press conference yesterday was that it was okay for them to respond the way that they did. And I think it will have the opposite effect of what he actually wanted, which was to try to quell the civil unrest. I think that his response will cause people to continue to distrust the police and continue to riot and continue to demand answers and continue to demand the complete release of the video footage. And I think going forward, if he doesn't do something differently, he's going to continue to see things like this, and it may get worse. And I don't want to see that happen. Like I was saying to Mr. Varner before we came in here, the police are necessary. We need the police. We just need the police to serve and protect and to be civil towards those that they are taking into custody.
We've
And
got
if I can,
go ahead.
I think that specialized units are also needed. I see where some community members are saying ban certain specialized units. I believe in specialized units; they're needed, but they need to be trained properly and know once the cuffs go on, hands come off. It's certain things that in police work you learn it as soon as you hit the streets, and a lot of times what happens is when people go to specialized units, certain officers, And I got to say, it's only a certain bad amount of bad apples. Most police officers in this city are great officers. They do their job good. But those bad apples, when they get to those specialized units, they take it a step too far.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what needs to be looked at, you know.
And we've talked in the past before about some of the specialized units. I know that this is the gang unit that was doing this particular arrest and intervention. Um, do you believe that they are a problem themselves?
I think they have certain officers in that unit that probably shouldn't be there. Uh, and for the same reason, for the brutality type reason. Some of the illegal stops and just some of the way you know that I walk the streets 3 days a week. I talk to these guys on the streets and they tell me about how the gang unit, you know, is constantly harassing them. I don't know if they're harassing them or not because I don't know if that person's doing wrong, and if they're doing wrong, the officer has the right to intervene. But that's the way I feel about that. So.
I'd like to start actually with a caller who's been waiting for a minute here. Jennifer in the Jacksonville Beaches area. Good morning, Jennifer. Welcome to First Coast Connect.
Good morning. Thank you. I just had a comment and kind of thought based upon Mark's declaration that this gentleman was a scumbag. Fortunately for us in this country, we have a Constitution, and part of the Constitution is innocent until proven guilty. And I don't know of any punishment doled out by court that indicates that somebody deserves to be beaten brutally on the side of the road. One thing that we as citizens are consumers, and we need to look at how we consume the information that we were provided. You know, there's no requirement to prove that he was a known drug dealer and scumbag, et cetera, when a statement is made by the police department to the news. That's just hearsay, basically. They haven't gone to court about it, and he's innocent until proven guilty. So there's no reason for the police to have brutally beat him like that based upon a crime that he committed. They're not judge, jury, and sentencer.
Jennifer, thanks a lot. Appreciate your thoughts. Lafonda, talk to us a little bit about that. Obviously, there is a process that we have in place for, sentencing or dealing with someone who's a criminal. And we should be clear, this young man does have a criminal record. According to the police report, the unredacted version, he's a known gang member to these officers. But again, there's a process in place. So I would assume the officers would say their goal wasn't to punish this person. They were just dealing with his resistance with the use of force.
Absolutely. That was a great comment, Jennifer. Thank you so much for that. And you are absolutely right. He has every right to be treated civilly and to be afforded the innocent until proven guilty that we stand by in this country. He has constitutional rights as well. The officers also have a duty to treat him with civility and with respect. And to take him into custody if they believe that a crime had been committed. But let's be clear, and let's not allow his criminal record and their suspicions to cloud our judgment. What we have is the officers following a vehicle from a gas station and stopping them on the pretext of not wearing their seatbelt, forcing them to get out of the vehicle, and affecting arrests on a seatbelt violation, which is a civil traffic violation. It's not a criminal offense. That's why they were there. That's why they were stopped. If they had evidence of drug dealing, of trafficking in any kind of drugs, they would have arrested them, and that would have been the first thing that they said. It is not. When you read the report, they clearly said that they didn't have their seatbelt on. In that case, there should never be an arrest. It should be a traffic citation and a notice to appear in court if you want to contest that citation, not an arrest. But okay, let's say there was a drug deal that went on. Let's say they did observe that drug deal, and let's say he should have been arrested for that drug deal. He still has the right to be treated like a human being and arrested with civility and with respect.
Mm-hmm. Now, Kim, the sheriff yesterday made a point of saying, there were 3 people in this car. One of them fled, and the other 2 were arrested, and they weren't manhandled, and they weren't, their face isn't beaten. His point being, this was not an indiscriminate use of force. This was, targeted against somebody that handled themselves differently than the other 2 in the vehicle.
I, as a police officer, and I was sitting while I was listening to Ms. Middleton speak just now, officers know who they're dealing with. When they stop a car, a lot of times they know who's in that car. They know that person's reputation. They know he has a criminal past, or they know that he has the potential to be violent with the police, or he's going to resist and run or whatever. You know who you're stopping a lot of times when you stop a car. And this guy clearly got out the car with a gun in his pocket. I'm not here to claim that this guy's innocent, but all I'm here to say is that when a person is not resisting, then he has no reason for to go to the hospital with his face swollen and looking like that. That's all I'm saying. Officers want to go home just like everybody else. We want to protect ourselves and go home just like everyone else. But when you have that many officers out there on a kid that looks like he's probably 160 some pounds, there's no reason for this kid's face to look like that. In reference to the other 2 people in the car, apparently they complied and they were arrested without harm, or not arrested. They were dealt with without any harm or whatever. So I'm not, the guy resisted, he ran. I'm not saying that this guy was a saint, but there's no reason for public enemy number 1 shouldn't go to jail looking like that unless you actually had to fight this guy. And I didn't see that in this video is all I'm saying. This video didn't display that to me.
Well, thank you both so much. Kim Varner, former JSO detective, great talking to you. Lafonda Middleton, wonderful to have an opportunity to talk about this. I'm sure we'll be talking about it more in the days to come.